Hello everyone and welcome to episode 101 of the All In Football Fantasy Premier League show and podcast. I'm your host, the self-proclaimed FPL guru, and joining me today are my usual suspects of Scott Williams and Barry Stokes. Barry, where in the world are you today?
I am just put up on the A38 in a service station, and I'm very excited because it's obviously potential bench boost time, but also it's got a lovely shop, shall we say, pulsing cocktails. So I don't know if I'm excited for that or for the bench boost. So
Did you just call pulsing cocktails a shop, by the way, Baz?
Yeah, it's my local.
What do you usually get from there out of interest?
Can't say this on the podcast, so we'll move on.
Scott, how are you? And I don't want to know what you'd get from pulsing cocktails before you ask what you say.
Oh yeah, my mum listens to this podcast, so I'll be saying that. Yeah, I'm all right. Not doing too bad. Yeah, living a dream.
Good. Glad to hear it. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks so much for everyone for tuning in. And I'd like to say a big thank you as well to everybody for all the love we had last week. I had lots of special messages from people off the back of episode 100, so it was lovely. And, thanks again to Guy, Tom and Martin for joining us. So it was it was a really special episode. And it was really nice. All of the messages we got saying congratulations on 100 episodes. So don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, All4Pod, All4P, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Don't forget to do the 5-star review where you get your podcast from, whether it be Spotify or wherever else. And don't forget to like our video on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. So we are going to cover free hit 34, bench boost 34, what we're going to do in 34, what if you're going to do if you're going to wildcard in 35, so one hit wonders. Maybe that, one hit wonders, why not? 1 week punt, and we're going to be covering off, just the best players to pick this week. So let's start with Manager of the Week for Game Week 33, which was Mr. Richard Kirk. Congratulations, Richard. Overall rank now 14,910 in the world. 105 points this week. Petrovic in goal with gusto, double clean sheet for Chelsea. Gvardiol at the back, which is a big differential. Dalot, Salah, Gordon, Palmer, Son, Isak, João Pedro, and Haaland captain. So he got 105 points without even captaining Cole Palmer, who got 4 goals, which is a really strong week from Richard. Kelleher, Foden, and Dogi and Branthwaite on the bench. Kelleher and Foden came off for Petrovic and Gordon. So nice little.
It's your year, don't you?
Nice little 23 points off the bench there for you, Richard.
Get yourself a lottery ticket, Mr. Richard Kirk, this week. Wow.
A wonderful 23 points off the bench for you, which has taken you level on points with our league leader, Mr. Ali Farrell. Ali's only ahead now on transfers made. So 2,078 points apiece at the top of the All In Football Podcast Mini League. It is getting to crunch time, guys. We only have 5 game weeks left, and 28 points further back is our long-time leader, Callum Burnett. So the top 3 are all really quite close. There are only 28 points in it. And Marco there, only a further 14 points back in 4th place. And we're starting to get down a little bit further to Nikola Vasovic. With 2,016 points. So probably a little bit far away, 62 points and 4 players off the top of the league. It's starting to get a little bit tough. As soon as it starts getting more than 10 points a week, you start getting a bit difficult to make up over a consistent period. Sam Danby Bailey in 6th. Shout out to Sam. Hope you're listening. David Byrne, hope you're listening too, of course. In 7th, having a good season as usual. Tate Brown, Sandeep Punjan in 9th. No one hopes you're having a good season, Sandeep. And Steve Cousins in 10th, equal on points with Martin Wheel. So it's all nice and tight. And everybody who wasn't involved in the Cup before is now going to be involved in the Cup this week. So if you did get knocked out last week, then it was a tough week. Very close. I was pretty fortunate, really, to get through. It was Palmer versus Branthwaite for me in the Chelsea-Everton game, and Palmer just edged it in that game. But it did come down to the final game for me and David Tomlinson. So fixtures for Game Week 34 are, I'm not going to read them all out, but check them out. We've got Scott Williams facing our favourite wheel, Jason Wheel. Interesting battle, because I did have a look at the chips that Jason has left. And he has a few options. I think when me scroll down, Scott, you've still only got your bench boost left, but Jason still has his second wild card left. So I think he's probably going to play it this week, just because that feels like how you run. We're facing the other wheel lads, the podcast team. We're facing Martin, so that'll be a tough game. Guy Ferguson got through, playing Daniel Nifemi. Then we've got Baz. Who are you playing? I've got you, Dimple, aren't you?
Dimple,
yeah. Dimple Hunjan. So we all always hope you lose. Go on, Dimple. favorite Hunjan. But Barry starts his cup run again, going for 2 out of 3 in terms of years. And I've got Ali Farrell, the league leader. Looking at the chips Ali's got left, I would assume you get a wild card 34 and 35 through and bench boost 37. So you're probably going to take a 1 week hit punt this week with whatever transfers you've got left. So it could be a tight one this week, depending on if I bench boost or not. And let's be honest, the biggest fixture of the week is Jude's Giants, Judith Williams taking on my tips don't lie, Cully Matheru.
Come on, Mum.
Come on, Judy. You've got this. Take down Matheru. So getting really exciting now. We are at the round of 32. The cup always revitalizes and reinvigorates players at this time of year. So it's all very exciting. Let's do Gameweek 34 fixtures, shall we? Let's get on with that. And we will have a look at the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating chart, and the teams that are going to be doubling this week. So we have got some really good single game weeks as well, fixtures to be fair as well. But Arsenal are doubling this week, Wolves away and Chelsea at home. Liverpool are doubling against Fulham away and Everton away, both coming off the back of losses, which is obviously not great considering Man City haven't lost since November and now Man City are top. But, both of these teams play both of these games before City play next in the league. So could be a very different picture if both teams win this, of course. Big pressure on Man City because they play in the FA Cup at the weekend. Crystal Palace have 2 home games against West Ham and Newcastle. Bournemouth have 2 away games against Aston Villa and Wolves. Everton have 2 home games against Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. And Sheffield United have a home game against Burnley and away game against Man United. And to round off, 2 home games for Wolves, Arsenal and Bournemouth. Baz,
yeah.
I'm just gonna come to you first and bring up the spreadsheet that I've done for this game week. Players that are essential for you from those teams that are doubling if you're looking at free hitting. Start talking to me about assets that we cannot go without.
You're looking at informed players, really, to be honest. It's like a 1 week kind of punt if you're free hitting. So Salah, is he in form? Is he not in form? But obviously he'll turn up against Everton because obviously it's Derby. So you got to think he's going to be an essential. Kai Havertz for me. Saka. I'd probably have Eze as well, to be honest. He's not highly owned, but it could be a good one if people are going for like Diaz, Luis Diaz, and someone else. So he could be another potential option because I think quite a lot of people will be fearing not having Palmer after his 4-goal show. So it's, for me, I'd think midfielders is probably the key in this one. Strikers, there's a debate. It's either Darwin, Cunha, Mateta. They're basically probably 3 that I would think is probably nailed on for that position. Who else could potentially go up front for you?
Solanke as well has got to be.
Solanke as well. Yeah, so there's 4 potential ones there, and obviously with a free hit, you'll probably be going gun ho and going attacking and probably going a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. So for me, that they'll be the ones that are nailed on.
It's got interesting in terms of the XG over the past expected goals over the past couple of weeks. So, I mean, the stats on the screen for podcast listeners are over the last 6 game weeks for each of the team. Liverpool have far ahead in terms of Salah and Diaz for XG, 3.44 for Salah and 3.01 for Diaz. Only Mateta has got over 3 in terms of his XG since, but Salah's got 2 goals, no assists. Diaz has got 2 goals and 1, whereas you've got players like Havertz, Solanke and Mateta getting 3 goals. Would be silly to overlook a double up in that Liverpool midfield for free hitters, or what? How are we feeling about the Liverpool attack? Should we be looking in the defence? What do you think about Liverpool?
Yeah, I think it's one of those, isn't it? Especially now Conor Bradley's now injured, so Trent will just come straight back in the team. If you're free hitting, you've got the money. Trent could be a good pump. We know how much of an attacking defender he is, so you're not necessarily sweating on those clean sheets because you know he can get attacking returns. 2 away games. Everton, I mean, that's going to be a tough one. Midweek on Everton, them fans are going to be pumped up. It's a derby. It's going to be a really tricky game. Fulham, I think Fulham are quite unpredictable this season, really. They're pulling out some really random results. So actually, Fulham at home is not a gimme either. So and it's this Sunday. It'll be interesting to see what Klopp does tomorrow. Has he just gone, yeah, we're out in the Europa League, I'm going to rest some of our big boys for the Prem, or is he going to go for it? I think he'll still go for it to a certain extent. I don't think he can, because if he doesn't go for it and then they slip up again at the weekend, it's like, what have you done? They can turn. It's not like they're playing. It's not like at the end of the day they turned a 3-goal deficit down to Barcelona, didn't they? So they can do it. They can do it in the Europa League against Atalanta, definitely. But yeah, I think Trent would be one I would probably bring in this week, to be honest with you, on a free hit. I think he's a fun one to bring in. Alongside, I'd have Salah in there. And then depending if any other attacking options caught my eye, I would potentially look at having Diaz as well. Because I think there is a few. You could roll the dice and maybe get Jesus in as well, so he does double this week. I think they've got a fit. Then that second nicest double behind Liverpool. So he is one, and he's started the last 2 games as well in the league. So again, one. But yeah, my if I was free hitting, I'd bring in Trent this week.
It's a really interesting point, that I think, because Trent now feels like he's going to be quite nailed on, because I've seen a lot of free hit drafts with Robertson in, because he feels like he was going to play both, and if they were going to play in a flat back 4, then Robertson tends to get forward a lot more, doesn't he, down the left hand side, and he's more involved with a sort of a conventional double wing back system that they play. Whereas when Trent plays at right wing back, does the inverted role, and then Robertson shifts into a back 3 more in attack. So with Trent playing, it kind of makes Robertson, for me, somebody I probably wouldn't go for anymore in a free hit. He was in my free hit draft I did initially as well.
He looked fun. He was the only player that looked good at the weekend, and he looked very good. He was very impressive actually at the weekend. So yeah, if Bradley hadn't got injured, I think Robbo would have been a brilliant shout to bring in. But yeah, I think especially if you're catching up, or he's coming towards the end of the season, you want to do something a bit fun. Trent's a fun player to have. If you get Trent in, that's going to be an entertaining watch. He's going to be whipping balls. He's going to be taking set pieces. So I would just roll the dice a little bit and go Trent.
He's only 8.6% owned as well, and most of those people that own him are probably dead teams. So it's going to be a big differential compared to the others. The other player to consider, I think, for Liverpool has to be Alisson. If you wanted to go for a goalkeeper, Liverpool defender, I think he's got to be somebody you would consider as a goalkeeping option if you're only going to go for 2 assets. And Virgil van Dijk as well, because he's just going to play both games. He tends to still get a really good. I mean, this season he's got 106 points, which isn't as good as probably his worst returns. So, he's had, other than that one season, obviously he was injured. But yeah, it's been probably one of his worst seasons. But still, he's going to be playing. I think the big question for people would be Salah's obvious, as we all know. But do you go, if you are going to go for a one defender and, obviously then two Liverpool attackers, is it Darwin or is it Diaz? I did put Jota on here as well because Jota is now back fit. He got 24 minutes in the game that he played. A couple of shots in the box, one big chance created as well in terms of assists. He's somebody to consider. Baz, Darwin or Diaz? Which one would you be going with?
Well, I'm a Darwin holder at the moment, but obviously Diaz is in great form. The only problem now is obviously Jota's back and Gakpo and Europe, and I think quite a lot of rotation risks. Salah's obviously not going to be because he's a very key man for them. So it's one of them. Are you going to gamble on obviously them only playing a one gamer? So, and you don't know which game they're going to play, so it's quite difficult. So obviously the Trent shout was good because I think he's going to potentially play both games. Same with Alisson, but then you're going double Liverpool defence. So for me, I'd be probably going Luis Diaz because he looks more better in front of goal compared to Darwin, who had multiple chances at the weekend. So
I think one thing to consider. Sorry, I think one thing to consider as well is, especially if you're free hitting, this is the way I would look at it. Think what 11 players you want to play, because you're free hitting, you obviously can't bench. So if you're just if you've got three strong strikers that you want to have a go, you think, you know what, Cunha, fire at the weekend. I want to start him. I want to start Solanke. I want to start, maybe a Mateta. And you think, actually, them three are nailed on. Well, actually, then maybe you're running the risk of bringing a Diaz in and having that debate about putting him on the bench. I mean, obviously, vice versa as well, if you're wanting to do the same with Nunes. So I think that's something definitely to consider. I've done that before. I've done like a free hit. I've really wanted to bring someone in, and I've been like, oh, it's now sitting on the bench. Especially with double game week, because the likelihood of them not having 0 minutes in 2 games is very, very slim.
Yeah. You'll have your first sub sat there. Generally, they'll either be a midfielder or a striker, won't they? Especially this season, and they're probably going to be quite strong because we've all got lots of money. So I know I understand what you're saying with that one. It's funny because, and one of the reasons I ran these stats is because we've all talked about Diaz recently, and fair play in terms of the numbers that he's been delivering over a period of time. But in the last 6 game weeks, or the last 6 appearances, or the last 6 fixtures for Liverpool, Darwin started 5 of them and come on as a sub once, whereas Diaz has started all 6. Diaz has got 100 more minutes under his belt than Diaz over that period of time. They've scored the same amount of goals, and Darwin's got 1 more assist. And he's done that off a lower XG and a lower expected assists. He's had also the most shots in the box out of any of these players on this list in that period of time, which no one's surprised about. 21 shots in the box, and he's created 1 big chance. I think we're all kind of under the illusion that Diaz has had more returns than Darwin. It's just not true. Diaz has had 3 returns in 500 minutes, and Darwin's had 4 returns in 400 minutes. So it's become more of a debate for me than it was. I was clearly Diaz before I'd even thought about it. I was like, Diaz, definitely over Darwin. And, Cunha, Solanke and Mateta have been my 3 strikers. Now I'm on the fence. Can't lie. It becomes a bigger debate for me. And then also the Jota situation hangs over, I think, in terms of both of those players. Let's talk about Arsenal a little bit, and I'll go on to the slightly easier to digest spreadsheet on this one that I've created. We've pretty much all narrowed it down now to really 3 Arsenal assets in terms of midfielders that would be looking to get, which is Saka, Havertz, or Ødegaard. Baz, your thoughts after the defeat to Villa at the weekend? Obviously at home, Arsenal play tonight against Bayern Munich. What are you expecting from them as a team? And 2 midfielders, 3 midfielders?
I still like the Arsenal defence, and I think obviously I shared it in our WhatsApp chat regarding Zinchenko, obviously how bad he played. So for me, I think he gets dropped, and I think Kivior plays, and they look more solid when he plays, to be honest. So I would probably still have two midfielders and still have obviously the defender or a potential goalkeeper with Raya. So for me, I'd still have Saka and Havertz. And obviously, yeah, you still probably could throw the dice with Odegaard, but obviously they're the two that I've got, and I think quite a lot of the free hit people will probably have Saka and Havertz more than Odegaard. So that's why obviously my wild card was prone to thinking about, let's have same as what people would have for a free hit, and then have a few differentials in there, so I'm not losing out if someone goes big. Like obviously I missed out when Palmer bagged a hat trick, but then I was like, yes, I need to get him in, so I got him in, and luckily enough, he's performed well. So yeah, for me, I wouldn't triple up in midfield for Arsenal, because there's, as we keep talking about, there's a lot of options in midfield. Elise's back from injury. Eze, Hwang's obviously back from injury as well. Jota's coming back from injury. So there's loads of midfielding options there, and obviously going triple like Arsenal is not ideal for me. So yeah. So Saka and Havertz would be the two, and a defender.
Anything different to really add there in terms of the midfield choices, Scott? Any consideration from your side? And Odegaard over either of them two?
No, I agree about the Zinchenko thing as well. I was watching the game with our friend Martin, and I was like, I can't wait for Zinchenko to get his usual sub at like 65 minutes and me get a clean sheet. Somehow played the whole game, didn't he? Like, I was like, what is going on? No, he played 86 minutes. But, Ben White got sub and got a clean sheet, so can't grumble too much there. No, for me, I'm very happy with the three I've got: Saka, Havertz, and Ben White.
Yeah, they'd be the three that I'd be going for on a free hit, almost certainly. That's for sure. Odegaard has played more minutes than the other two. He's also scored more goals than Saka, but Saka's got more assists and a higher XG and more shots in the box. And generally, generally he looks like a player with the numbers to. He's scored more points than Odegaard this season. Obviously, more goals anyway. Havertz with 3 goals and 3 assists, started all of the last six starts, 6 attacking returns. I'm just surprised he's got slightly lower predicted points for this game week than Saka, to be honest, Havertz. And he's still only at 7% owned, which really blew my mind. I thought it'd be much more highly owned than that. So for me, he's an obvious pick, because weirdly he's still a bit of a differential, which makes me, baffles me. And obviously I went for Odegaard on the wild card to just try go different. And actually what I've ended up doing is, because I thought everyone would get Havertz, what I've ended up doing is having a 10% more 10% highly owned player, 17.6 compared to 7%. And he's performed worse. So well done, less of a differential and less points.
And he's more expensive.
Learn from the guru. What an absolutely shocking pick that was. Before we go on to some of the other midfield options, because I know we do definitely need to have a conversation about Eze, Elise, and a couple of the others. I wanted to have a look at the teams that are doubling and having a look more at their defensive side as well, compared to the teams that they're playing it. So let me just explain the graphic that's on the screen. So Arsenal, it's all ordered by expected goals conceded, and actually also nearly exactly in terms of actual goals conceded. So Arsenal, this is over the last 6 games, have an expected goals conceded of 4.1. They have conceded 3 goals. They've kept 4 clean sheets. They have by far got the best defence over the past 6 game weeks, which nobody is surprised by. This is their opponents' combined total goals scored. So the teams that they are playing against, Wolves away and Chelsea at home, have scored 25 goals between them over the last 6 game weeks, which is actually nearly equal the most of all of the teams that have double game weeks opponents. So actually, they're nearly the most potent attacks. They don't look that great. Their combined XG has only been 20.89, which is the 3rd worst. So they've been outperforming their expected goals, which is obviously, I think, a big help to from Chelsea scoring them 6 in one game, because Chelsea is obviously one of the teams they double against. I think one thing to take into account here is that Bournemouth, the expected goals conceded and the actual goals conceded, goals scored, and expected goals to be scored by their opponents, Bournemouth's opponents, which are Villa away and Wolves away, is the lowest here. Would we consider Bournemouth defenders for the double game week, Baz? Because, well, the teams they're playing against have been some of the worst in front of goal.
100%. We all saw Senesi's assist show. So Senesi is obviously going to be on most people's radar. You've got potential Neto as well in goal, who obviously loves saving shots. I think he's saved quite a few. Don't know obviously the stats, but he's usually got like at least 3 saves or more in a game. So they'll probably be the only two. Kirkez has been in and out of the team. Zambrani, I do like him, but does he get enough goals or assists? So that he does play regular, but that's my only issue with it. So they'll be the one. Obviously, your guy Smith, obviously less than 1%, so he's a very good differential. If you wanted to obviously have him in, and he does pop up with the odd assist now and then as well. But if I was going straight out and I needed one of them, it'd either be Neto or Senesi.
And Bournemouth's opponents as well, their expected goals conceded, their opponents is also the second highest out of the double game weeks, and their actual goals conceded is the worst. But Villa and Wolves have got the worst defences over the past 6 weeks. So it feels like Solanke's somebody that's pretty nailed on in the team, really. They're facing the worst defences in essence, and that surprised me. And Sheffield United are the other ones that we'll cover their assets in a bit. But
what I'll say quickly, I'll just on the Wolves one, I actually massively disagree with Baz. I don't think you're keeping any clean sheets if you're Bournemouth. You've got Aston Villa away with Ollie Watkins and co. I don't think that's a clean sheet any day of the week. And I would have said maybe 2 weeks ago, potential Wolves away. Not when you've got Cunha back up front. And if any of those games are at home, maybe. Them 2 games away, I'd be shocked if any clean sheets come. And I don't think they look good enough sort of as attacking defences. But I absolutely agree, have Solanke, definitely.
It's interesting. That's why I'm bringing up the point, Scott, because you'd have thought, no way. There's no way I'd have a defense. But the combined XG of those 2 teams combined is by far the worst of any of the double game weeks.
So, but you're Cunha back.
Yeah, well, true. And also Watkins has been playing those games. But I just found it really interesting to look at those teams and think, okay, so a Bournemouth defender potentially. It's the Sheffield United one that not the shot makes. It's Burnley and Man United. But you've got to remember how bad Man United have been recently. And what I mean by that is not in terms of scoring goals, but in terms of conceding goals, they've been awful, really bad. And Burnley aren't exactly a good team. So there are a couple of options in midfield for Sheffield United that we have to consider. I mean, goals scored by opponents 19, which isn't great, and that's mostly because Burnley aren't that great in front of goal. But their expected goals conceded of those 2 teams combined is 26.5 over the 6 game weeks. It's by far the worst. United have conceded the most shots in the league this year, and that's a stat that's being chucked around obviously everywhere at the moment. And their combined goals conceded is 22. Man United have still got the equal 4th best defence in the league, just by the way. which is, do you not find that insane?
I think that just sums up how the big boys have not been keeping that many clean sheets other than Arsenal this year. I think I've really just summed that up.
Only Arsenal, Liverpool, and City have conceded last goal.
I bet if you look at expected goals conceded, Man United will be probably one of the most amounts because, like Gary Neville says, they concede 20 every week. I think Onana's actually done really well the last few weeks, I must say as well.
I think Onana's done really well in the Premier League all season. I think he's actually had a really bad reputation. I know Baz strongly disagrees with this, and I've had a few other people as well who've done the same, but I think he's been phenomenal, actually, considering the horrendous defence that we've had. To have that many goals conceded, considering the amount of shots he's faced. Don't get me wrong,
that's the amount of shots. Like, if you get 6 shots on target and you save 6 shots, you get clean sheet. God, I'm sound like Michael Owen right now. But you have 20 shots on target. I know, oh my God, you let a little bit of a dodgy one in. Suddenly, we're not crying about how bad Man United defence is. We're crying about the keeper should have saved that, but he saved it with 19. So yeah, I agree.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Champions League, awful, complete shocker. We all know we had a shocker in the Champions League. Before Baz gets on at me about that with the Onana situation, we all know that he's the reason United got knocked out of the Champions League. It was terrible. But yeah, the point I'm making, Baz, before you come back on that if you'd like to, is that Sheffield United are facing probably the 2 of the worst defences. So would we look at Brereton Diaz, Gustavo Harmer, Ollie McBurney, all massive differentials this week?
I don't think you probably put them in your team anyway, because I think the other teams that are there, you'd rather have a Bournemouth asset or a Palace asset or a Wolves asset than a Sheffield United, because it's Sheffield United and people think they're not good enough. But as we've seen, they can score goals. They scored two at Chelsea, and then they've scored quite a few recently. So for me, it is an option, but I think, as I mentioned, Wolves, Palace, and Bournemouth players, you'd rather have them over Sheffield United. But like I say, I wouldn't shy away from the option if you needed a cheap one to finish your team. But again, like Scott mentioned, you're going to pick 11, and then the rest is just going to be Cadden fodder and just sitting on your bench. So yeah, you might as well just get cheap Sheffield United players, but money's not an issue. So I can't see him being in hardly anyone's team.
Brereton Diaz this week in terms of expected points. So in the last 6 game weeks, he's played 5, he was injured 1, he scored 2 and got 1 assist. His XG is right up there. It's above Eze's. It's similar to Saka's, similar to Havertz's. And that's off a lot less shots in the box. And his expected points return is exactly the same as Elise's. It's above Hwang's, Erdegaard's, Jota's for the week. For me personally, Brereton Diaz, with those 2 fixtures against Burnley and Man United, at a lowly 0.4% owned, is probably the differential, like the proper out there player that, I think I would be looking at putting in a team. Even if I know Scott would maybe looking at a first sub here potentially, but he's the sort of player that I might even look in starting in a 5 in midfield, because I really, really think they'll get opportunities in those 2 games against Burnley and Man United. Ollie McBurney, as well as a differential draft shout as a striker, is absolutely up there, of course. I think he's going to be on that list for a lot of us this week. Scott, are we talking too much about Sheffield United, or are we talking about a team here that's playing 2 bad teams and actually we should be considering them?
Talking too much about Ollie McBurney's right, knobhead.
Brereton Diaz. Go.
Yeah. Again, if you're going to roll the dice a little bit, but if you're going to roll the dice and be a bit different, you want to start him, because again, likelihood is he ain't coming off your bench. So yeah, if you've got some issues, maybe get Brereton Diaz, but I completely agree. Burnley at home is a lovely fixture, and you got Sheffield United that are scoring, and Man United away, they will get chances. Who did they play? Yeah, I mean, they went away. They scored 2 against Chelsea, who obviously consistent. They scored against Liverpool, didn't they? So yeah, but again, I wouldn't, just because Sheffield United.
It's a very fair point. Let's do the Palace chat then. So Baz, Eze, nailed free hitter, 100% of your team, never not going to be in, or are we talking about a player that is playing in a team that's not actually that amazing. They're a bit overrated, and they just beat Liverpool because Liverpool like to bottle things against Palace.
I think he's nailed on. If I was free, and he'd be in my team. Because obviously with Elise back now as well, there's some more extra creativity in there. Obviously, Eze takes penalties as well, so you've got that potential option as well. And obviously, they've got a good relationship with Mateta up front. So, and obviously, Mateta's been playing really well as well. He gave Liverpool's defence a right run around. So for me, Eze's creativity, he takes set pieces. It's a no-brainer.
Would you look potentially then, because I know Mateta's obviously an option here as well, in terms of, I'll go to this sheet here, he's obviously an option as well, considering he's the equal top scorer out of all of these people in the last few games. Is there an argument? So West Ham's away defensive ranking per 90 this season. Shots conceded, they're 17th in the league. Expected goals conceded, 17th in the league. Goals conceded, actually 16th in the league. Newcastle's away defence ranking again per 90. Shots conceded 14th. Expected goals conceded 19th. And goals conceded 18th. So they're facing 2 of the 5 worst away defences in the league. Eze, Mateta, and Elise, then? What do you think, Scott? Baz? Come to you first on it, Baz. Sorry, we were just talking about it. What do you think? Should we look at double up, triple up? What are we underselling them?
I wouldn't be against it. Put it that way. So for me, yeah. But obviously, I do like potential other assets as well, like Henderson. He had an absolute brilliant game against Liverpool, so he could be a potential goalkeeper option for you. I do like Muniz as well for him. And obviously Mitchell's, I think he's got 2 assists now recently. So yeah, so their potential options are out there as well. But like I say, I think Palace are looking good under Glasner, and he's got him playing in the formation that's really good. And even if you want to go crazy, I know obviously I'm doing a Swansea shout again because he's ex-player, but Jordan Ayew looks good as well. But is he going to have less minutes because Elise is back? So
I started putting Ayew in this list, and then his stats were so crap, I just couldn't keep putting him in.
Yeah,
I really wanted to. I love Ayew as well.
Yeah, he's a very patchy player. As we talk about, he's a draft player.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, I wouldn't be against having 3 attacking players for Palace.
Scott, are we insane? Is it just Eze and Mateta? Will we look? Should we consider Elise?
I think such recency bias there from Baz. They've won 2 in 10 games. One of them was Burnley at home. They did impress me. I've not seen a lot of Palace. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're on TV that often to see. I was super impressed actually. They look really good. If it wasn't for a ridiculous close off the line from Robinson, Mateta would have got a goal as well. So I was really impressed by Mateta's hold up play. He's so strong, isn't he? He reminds me a bit of when Benteke was throwing his weight about a bit. He really impressed me, and I think they'll get better. Now you say if you can keep Elise and Eze fit, they're just always in and out the team with injuries. Yeah. They can keep him fit and have Mateta up top. I think they're a really impressive team actually. I think they've got a lad that they got from Blackburn as well in the midfield who looked good. He looked good. Yeah, I was not for fans. Don't get me wrong, just as a player. But no, I think we're getting a bit recency bias there, a bit giddy. But yeah, I think Mateta would be one of my 3 strikers, and I agree with the shout from Eze. I think he's definitely in your team.
Yeah. Eze's top for expected assists in the last 6 weeks out of this group of people. He expected points on fantasy football will be second only to Salah, and his ownership's 4.9%. Well, it was when I did these stats last night. It might have gone up slightly since then, but he's absolutely a nailed-on player in the centre of midfield. Yeah, I agree, Scott. I think it'd be Eze and Mateta. I think that if anybody doesn't have Elise in draft, he's somebody absolutely in terms of a draft player that you'd be wanting to get in if you haven't got him already, and he is available. In terms of options, he's got to be up there and considered. So we've done Arsenal, we've done Liverpool. Is there much more to talk about with Bournemouth other than Solanke? I mean, we obviously mentioned the defence. Should Christie and Kluivert, for example, as options be people that mean, they're probably never going to be in free hit teams, are they? Really, considering the amount of midfield
They'll
options.
be on a bench for a free hit team. I don't think they're going to start, are they?
So, Scott, I'll ask you this from this perspective instead. Would there be the sort of players that you would be looking at bringing in draft if you were playing the draft game of FPL?
Without a shadow of a doubt, Clivett would be definitely. Started the last 2 games as well. He started throughout the last 4 games, actually. So he is getting those starts and he's returned in those last 3 games. So Clivett, without a shadow of a doubt, would be someone I would be getting in for this double game week in draft. 100%. Who was your one? Kelly, did you say?
No, Christie.
Christie.
I said Christie is, in terms of 2 assists, only Harmer, weirdly, with 3 assists, and Havertz have got more than him in this group in the last few weeks.
Yeah, potentially, but so you got 2 midfield options there with Clivett and Christie. You'd go Clivett any day of the week and Spice on Sunday. So, but yeah, if you've got a bit of a rotated player, like for me, if Arsenal weren't doubling this week, I've got Declan Rice in draft. He would be someone I'd get rid of quite easily, happily for him. Just depends. You're not with people that don't know the draft. You've got more scope for changes because you're not attached to players because you have a lot of rotating players because only one player can have each player. So yeah, he's a draft asset. I wouldn't be looking at anyone personally other than Solanke for main fantasy.
Anything to add on that, Baz, before we try and cover off Wolves, finish off covering on Wolves?
No.
Cunha, 3 appearances, 2 coming on as a sub, managed to get 2 goals in that period of time off an XG of 0.53. He scored 2 goals with only 3 shots in the box. 4.5% owned as a player, obviously looked incredibly impressive. Hwang just coming back from injury. Those guys, in terms of free hit drafts, or I mean, maybe even bringing them in for beyond. Baz, what are you thinking for those guys?
I think just for free hit for me, Hwang's obviously just coming back from injury. I think he had, was it hamstring? So you got to be very careful with that. But Cunha, obviously he was in great form before he got injured, and obviously he's looking like he's back in form again. So yeah, I think Cunha will be obviously probably the only one that I'd be looking at going further with. But obviously you've got Isak. So it's like, no, I'm not probably gonna bring him in. Obviously, you got Watkins as well. So, but if you needed a cheapish striker, to replace Muniz, for example, then yeah, if you've got some spare cash and an extra 1 million, then why not upgrade to Cunha? But yeah, I think Cunha looks a great option for the free hit. You could also potentially say Jose Sarr, or obviously Aït-Nouri, depending if he's available. So yeah.
With Sarr, the teams that Wolves are facing, so Arsenal at home and Bournemouth at home, I know they're both home games, but they have the equal strongest attack combined with the West Ham and Newcastle for Crystal Palace. So Wolves are facing a team with the two of the teams who have the highest combined goals total over the last 6 game weeks, and also combined XGs right up there at the top. They're also facing the two best defenses in terms of expected goals conceded in the last 6 games at 12.8, and they've actually only conceded 13 goals. So they've been performing on that trajectory of expected goals conceded, with it being Arsenal and Bournemouth. So yeah, I get the Cunha thing because he looks really, really good, but actually we've got to look at the fact that he's going to be facing probably two of the better defences. Looking at these numbers, I know Arsenal kind of outweigh the Bournemouth number because Arsenal's XG conceded is much better and goals conceded is much better. But Scott, are you concerned by those numbers at all in terms of being tougher defences to face? And yes. Also, do those teams, even though they're at home, make you rule out Wolves defenders, or would you consider it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. They've got weird fixtures towards the end of the season, actually. I was going to say, if you're just going to take a punt on them, the next game week they have Luton at home.
Yeah, two good home games and 2 horrible away ones, haven't they?
Yeah, and then Luton at home, City away, Palace at home, Liverpool away. So yeah, I think one thing we're talking about strikers now. It's quite nice. You've got a couple of, we've been very limited for options for strikers this season. So the fact you've got Cunha, Isaac, you've got maybe potentially Darwin Nunes, Watkins been there all season. You've got a few people sniffing around now. So you've got a bit of leeway if you want to sort of do your strikers. But yeah, Wolves defenders. I mean, I certainly won't be taking any out. I don't know. Potentially, if I'm sort of scouting about and I'm like, oh, actually, I've not got too many options. You've got an Arsenal, probably a defender in there to start. Would I rather have a Palace defender in there? West Ham at home, Newcastle at home. It's close, I think. I would probably just have a Wolves one because I'm probably a bit more confident, slightly more confident with a clean sheet against Bournemouth than I am with Palace getting a clean sheet against West Ham.
It's really difficult. It's difficult, isn't it? That third defender slot in this free hit draft, I think is actually one of the. I think it's actually one of the toughest slots to fill in the whole of this. The free hit, because keepers, it kind of doesn't really matter too much because they're not scoring that many points. So let's just say, for example, you're free hitting and you're going to have Havertz, Saka, and White, and then you're going to have Trent, Diaz, and Salah. Okay, well, then there's your 4 midfielders gone. Then you've got Eze as your 5th midfielder, haven't you? Easy at that point. Then up front, well, okay, we're only going to play 2 strikers. You've already used your 3 Liverpool, so you're going to either go Solanke and Mateta, or Solanke and Cunha, or Cunha and Mateta. You're going to go for 2 of those 3, and the other one's probably going to be sat on your bench because you're probably going to put all 3 in. So you're deciding which one you're going to bench. It's your third defender, which actually is a really tough pick because who's really going to keep clean sheets out of these lot? I don't know who I'd back. And actually, that's where you might look at a single game week player. But anyway, sorry.
I think with that, you've got to look at hardly anyone keeps clean sheets apart from Arsenal. So you just got who gives you the most attacking return. So you got to look at Aït-Nouri. I think he's been playing like as a left winger. So it's like, well, you got to potentially have him in, but it all depends if he's going to be fit. So I think everyone's going to be waiting on that team news, thinking, right, is Aït-Nouri fit? Who would think you'd ever be saying that in a in an FPL basis? But yeah, so for me, you wouldn't be looking at clean sheet options. It'd be right. Who's going to potentially get me? Who's going to start both games and going to have attacking threat? Then you're looking at Senesi or Aït-Nouri for me.
But that's why I put Mitchell in as well.
Yeah, Mitchell. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about him.
It's just another option. I think it's just going to be an interesting debate. I think we're going to see very few differentials in these free hit teams, and yeah, it's going to be a little more debate. So we've covered everyone that's important because I know we haven't touched on Everton, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin's potentially injured. I know he's got 2 goals in the last 3 games, I think it is, and I started to put some of Everton's midfielders into the midfielder matrix I was going to do. And then I realised that none of them have scored any goals in the last 6 weeks. So what a waste of everyone's time. And they're facing Forest at home and Liverpool at home as well. And you'd have hoped Forest at home might have been something that we might want to invest in. You never know. But I don't blame people if they've got a Pickford. If you've got him, you're happy, aren't you? You're enough because you've got a double game week and 2 home games. You might get some save points. And they've still got the equal 4th best defence with Man United in the league, by the way. And that's after shipping 6. So only the top 3 have got a better defensive record than Everton. So don't just chuck them straight out the window because they were a shambles on Monday Night Football. But yeah. Anything to add on Everton before we have a look at some single game weekers and also who we would buy out of them lot for the rest of the season? Anything, Scott?
You probably could gamble on Decore maybe, but you're clutching at straws. And like Scott mentioned, he's probably going to sit on your bench. So
you're scrambling, aren't you? So before we go single game week players, we've talked about it from a free hit perspective. So let's talk about it now from all of our perspectives. Actually, funnily enough, because none of us are free hitting this week. Scott's used his, and we're probably both free hitting in 37. I am, and I think you are as well,
Yep.
aren't you, Baz? So out of these players that we're going to potentially be looking to bring in for, the players we've talked about in terms of free hit. So who would we look at bringing in as rest of the season options out of those players? And I think we could probably look at the teams first of all. So Arsenal, I think it's relatively obvious. You know, most teams have got Saka already. You're probably adding a Havertz. You might want to go with a defender. Fine, cool. We'll move on from those guys. Bournemouth assets for the rest of the season, Baz. You know, they've got Brighton at home, yes, Arsenal away, but then Brentford at home and Chelsea away. Would you be adverse to bringing in a Bournemouth player in your team this week?
So, say for example, if I didn't have Solanke, then you'd be getting Solanke in for this reason. And probably, like Scott mentioned, he's probably going to be the only one, because it's very rare that you're going to do a keeper transfer. Even though I'm probably going to do a keeper transfer because Kelleher doesn't play.
But it's important you say that, Baz, though, because I think a lot of people will do keeper transfers this week who've got Kelleher. I think actually this week is going to be one of the more popular weeks that we've ever had, along with last week actually, with goalkeeper transfers. So I think it's worth you actually touching on that rather than skirting over it. I think it's important.
Yeah. So with keepers, you've got to look at who's obviously your other keeper. So I've got Dubravka. So you want to look at obviously rotation. So like I worked out that Palace and Newcastle had very good fixtures going forward, and the good rotation. So until the end of the season, where I think it's a bit difficult with Brentford away and Aston Villa at home. But apart from that, I was thinking that's great because Henderson's 4.4, so that frees up some more money that I could potentially use for upgrading a defender or maybe even a midfielder or attacker. So you've got to look at that when you're obviously doing your goalkeepers. But then I might have an issue where Pope comes back fit and then Pope starting. That's the reason why I picked Henderson, because Henderson's going to be set in stone. He's going to be playing because Johnston's out injured for the rest of the season, unless, touch wood, Henderson doesn't get injured. So
yeah, of course.
So that's why I obviously picked that, and I wouldn't mind him in the fixtures. Like for example, Man U at home. Yeah, I could potentially see in save points, clean sheet, maybe, but maybe not. So you've got more chance of getting save points with Henderson, especially with his performance at Anfield. So for me, you've got him as a potential option. You've got Jose Sarr, but obviously it's a bit expensive for a goalkeeper in my eyes. I don't usually like spending more than 4.5 on that. You've got you've got Bournemouth keeper Neto. I think he's 4.7, so he's still a bit more than what Henderson is at 4.4. But the rotation side of it, because Newcastle's got very good fixtures going forward to the end of the season. So you probably could just gamble and just keep Dubravka in goal anyway. So So for me, it's looking at the rotation and who you want to be your starting keeper for that game. But they're potential shouts to maximise the bench boost because they've got double fixtures.
You look at someone like Pickford in terms of point returns as well. You know, like you say, if you haven't got him already, they've got good fixtures other than the last game week against Arsenal. I think the other thing to consider for us as managers is if you are going to free hit in 37, you know, if you do have your free hit left, you know, you're bringing in a player for all the weeks that obviously don't include 37. And I think that if you haven't got through Liverpool, that's probably their weakest game week. So the rest of the fixtures around it, you're happy having a Liverpool player. When they get knocked out of the Europa League this week, they'll be only concentrating on the Premier League. So, you know, they'll have their main team out every week. So, yeah, I like... I know it sounds a little bit weird. I mean, Scott's already mentioned Trent, but I kind of like Trent as a player to bring in if you're trying to catch up, because you know what he's like. He just goes on a little run of 3 or 4 weeks, and if he's going to play every game, there's a chance there, especially if you're free hitting in 37, that he's got a double game week, then he's got West Ham, Spurs, and Wolves. It's not bad.
But it all depends on freeing up the cash. Obviously, I definitely can't do it.
So you're so stacked up front, mate.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, exactly. So the only way I can do is probably get rid of Haaland. But that could potentially be an option with all these striker options that we're having. But yeah, I think with that, yes, a great shout if you wanted that to be a potential option. But like I say, you're only looking at attacking returns for defenders, because clean sheets are hard to come by. Hence why I want a potential Arsenal defender, but the only one I could potentially afford without potentially ripping up the team would be Zinchenko or Kivior, and that's not a nailed on position for me. So, and it's like, oh, yeah. So for me, it's like, do I go for another player like that, like a Palace defender or a Wolves defender or a Bournemouth defender for that reason? So I need to obviously review my rotation of defenders. I know I talked about rotation of goalkeepers, so and always have that potential good fixtures of the three going forward, because Richard's injuries affected me massively, and obviously Branthwaite's out now with hamstring, and then Kelly is not playing. So there's three players not playing for me.
Oh, that's it. Well, I mean, that's how it's ended up being. Maybe you're not even going to bench boost, and I'm the same in terms of injuries this week. It's just killed you.
It's like, do I keep him bench boost for another game? And I'm like, probably not. I might do the dreaded Alex Rex and take a minus just to do a bench boost.
Yeah, depends. I think I'd take a -4 max, and otherwise I just wouldn't even bother. And then I'd just bench boost in another week and just single game week it. I don't think it's going to be a massive deal anyway, to be fair. Scott, come to you. Single game week players on a quick fire here. We've obviously got Chelsea with the worst fixture, Arsenal away, but the most informed player in the league being Cole Palmer. We've got some fixtures here being Bournemouth at home for Aston Villa, Luton away for Brentford, Sheffield United at home for obviously the Burnley, and Man United have got Sheffield United at home as a single game week. Any of these assets you would look at as players that you would want to maybe even bring in or keep or whatever?
No, none whatsoever. You've not got Palmer, you're an idiot. You don't deserve to bring him in. And yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest fixtures to bring him in for, is it? Arsenal away. No, none. The only fixture that jumps out at me as a single game week is Man United. The only player I can think of, so I don't want to bring any defence in, probably Højlund still. I don't know why, but he's not getting. There's about 7 other strikers we've talked about that I'd rather have in. So yeah, the answer to that is I'll be looking at bringing in no single game week.
Yeah, I'm happy bench boosting Garnacho at a single game week there. You know, that's what I mean. Like,
I was actually surprised that Scott didn't mention Bruno. I know we're not supposed to mention him, but yeah, after me slagging me and Guy slagging him off, he did the business. So for
he
me,
did, mate. Yeah, Trets again.
Bruno more than Højlund. Højlund just looks lost up there.
Yeah, but again, he won't be getting in that midfield. So the only reason I went to Højlund was striking. So I keep thinking we don't have striker options, but we do. So I kind of changed my mind halfway through saying the Højlund thing. But yeah, good knowledge from me. Bradley started as well, didn't he? So
yeah, you're happy having Bruno you're happy having Bruno in your team if you've got him for the next 3 weeks. Sheffield United at home, Burnley at home, Palace away, double game week, Brighton away. United have got good fixtures for the rest of the season here. If you used all your chips up, you want to get somebody in that's a little bit different. You're not going to bring him in this week, are you? Really, but you might bring him in for the future ones, and that's about it. So, should we do differential draft? Obviously, we've covered a lot of the differentials already this week. Oh, saying that, before I do that, I need to show you your free hit draft. Don't I? There you go. Why not just do that first? Free hit draft, Barry. This is what you put together. Henderson, go tell everyone at home. Just read it out to everybody else, because we've discussed all the assets here, anyway, haven't we?
So obviously, my free hit draft, I'm not obviously free hitting, but this is potentially what I'd be looking at. So, and obviously, it's going to change slightly as well. So I've gone for Henderson and Jose Sarr as my goalkeepers, and I'll be starting Henderson over Jose Sarr. I've gone for Ben White because he's just looking really, really good, and obviously Arsenal are very good defensively. I did pick Andy Robertson, but obviously Bradley injury now, that's going to be changing to Trent Alexander-Arnold. As you could, for the YouTube watchers, I've got 6.2 million in the bank, so I can clearly get Trent Alexander-Arnold without ripping up the team. As I touched upon, ain't Nori, he might not keep clean sheets in them games, but he's got very good attacking returns. Gone for Kai Havertz, Salah, Luis Diaz, Saka, and Eze as the midfield, and I think that's quite template for most people.
Much. Yeah.
Then my strikers, I've gone for Cunha and Mateta. You could argue Slanky should be in there, but obviously with the fixtures being away, I was more drawn to obviously the home fixtures, and then obviously to finish it off, I've gone for Senesi, and then obviously Branthwaite, but obviously came off injured because I did it before obviously the game on Monday. You can just change that to any defender that you haven't tripled up already. So yeah.
Exactly, and mine was very, very similar. I just had Mitchell in as another defender over Aït-Nouri, because Aït-Nouri looks like he's injured, so that's why he's in there. Exactly the same midfield, exactly the same strike force. I just had Pickford in goal over Henderson because Pickford was in my team and I couldn't be able to change him really. I think it's just there or thereabouts. So I was probably going to start Sarr until I saw the statistics. So I like the Henderson shout. So yeah, would be Trent over Robertson. We'll do the differential draft first, Baz, and then we'll have a look at your under 1% team, because I think that's probably the best way to do it. And so scores on the doors, and who's first?
So scores on the doors. Obviously, Guy entered the live draft, and unfortunately for him, he had a shocker. Bless him. He couldn't handle the pressure of doing it live. At least he was quite quick with the answers, unlike Scott dragging on. But saying that, Scott did win again. So yeah, no, he actually didn't. Sorry. Apologies. Doku obviously won.
Points per player that played. I smashed it.
You did. You only had 3 players. So Alex won 26, and that's brought him back into contention with obviously the overall as well. He's on 577. I came second to last with 18, and I'm overall 588. And Scott obviously had 3 players playing, but obviously Jackson obviously turned up, and he could have had more if he beat Palmer to the penalty. But
how pathetic was that?
So Scott obviously got 19, and he's at 522, and Guy got 12 with his team. So I'll go first, then Scott, then Alex.
Who is you going to go for then, Baz? Who is your first pick?
I'm going to go Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Gone for Trent.
Okay, I'm going to go for Kai Havertz.
Yeah, I was going to go for Havertz next. I just need to double check. Yeah, you see, that's the changer. I'm going to go for Eze, but he is now 5.2% owned. So he is now an under 10.
It was crazy. It was 5.1 at the start of the pod.
Was he? Yeah, 4.9 yesterday when I was looking as well. So Eze was going to be an under 5 for me, but no, he's not. He's now the over 10. So Eze.
And then I'm going for my striker. He's going to be Cunha.
Oh, sorry. I've just deleted the wrong thing. What owning was Havertz? It was under 10, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, 7%.
Yeah, so I was going to make sure I didn't do another one. Let me delete one. Yeah, fine. Okay, I'll go for my striker, and I'll go for the big man, Matata.
Then I will go for, in the midfield, to go with Eze. I'll go for Brereton Diaz as my under 1% at 0.4.
I'm going to pick.
Not same.
Elise.
You said him. Yes, said him. Yes, snake. That one, the ones here. I'm going to go for a goalie, and I will go for Jose.
Yeah, it's really annoying because I was literally about to do exactly that, Scott. I will then go for a goalkeeper, and I will go for Dean Henderson.
So I'm picking.
You are picking, mate.
You are picking.
I'm picking. I'm debating.
Oh, yeah.
Jota or He-Chan. Jota. I'm going to gambling. Jota.
Oh, he's gone for the rotation risk. I like it.
I'm going to mix my defence up this week. I'm going to go for a Crystal Palace defender. I'm going to go for Munoz. Yeah,
Munoz. I'm going to go for Robertson at 3.9.
Goalkeeper wise, I'm assuming I didn't hear what Scott said. Did he pick Jose Sarr?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, 1 second then.
Tell
I'm
you
gonna
what,
gamble then. I'll gamble. I'll just pick Gribic for 0.1. Sheffield United's keeper. Can't bother research. I know he's 0.1 or something like that.
I don't think, to be fair, mate, my three keepers were Sarr, Henderson, and Grujic. So those are the three keepers I think were the choices this week. So,
but there's Allison under 10, weren't there?
Have you not got an under 10 already?
Yeah, I've got first pick one at Trent.
That's what I thought. So yeah, kind of had to be him, didn't it? Let's be honest. Like it. It might go.
Oh, we're still going. Oh, I got another player.
I thought it was me then. I was like, oh no.
I thought
well, I know you
have
like playing with three players in a five-a-side, so you might as well play.
Are
with
we?
four.
Has anyone said Huang yet?
No.
No. I'll go for Huang then, please.
Yeah, my debate was whether I go for the double game week McBurney or I go for single game week Hoyland. And I think I'm gonna go with double game week McBurney. Let's do it. Or 0.2% owned. Go on, Ollie. So, teams are in. I've got Henderson, Robertson, Burton Diaz, Eze, and Ollie McBurney.
I've got Gribic, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jota, Elise, and Cunha.
Sarr, Munez, Havertz, Huang, Mateta.
I like that. They're very, very good. I think those teams are probably roughly in order of who picked them in terms of favourites. I think Baz Scott's and mine. I think that's probably the order of that one. Let's do captaincy in terms of double game weeks. Then let's wrap up with this one. We've obviously touched on all the fixtures already. I want to just talk about the deadline briefly, which is at 1:30 on Saturday, the 20th of April, because of the FA Cup.
Do you want to quickly go under me? 1%.
Oh, sorry, Baz. Sorry,
I've worked hard on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll put your under 1% team up. So Grujic, we covered. You picked him. You had Nelson Semedo in, but we have Munoz and Smith. Obviously, we've talked about already. Elise, Diaz, Cliver touched on with Jordan Ayew, McBurney. So you had Decore and Beto in here. Interesting picks, but under 1%.
There wasn't a lot, and I wanted a double game week players. So so they were the only kind of options I had, unless I was going to gamble and go for like Harvey Elliott or something like that. But I thought they're going to probably play both games. So, and then obviously you got Ashley Young who's playing more advanced, but obviously might probably go back to the defensive duties due to Patterson, and I think Coleman came off injured as well. So, and then obviously Dawson and so that finishes it off. So half decent team, but I'd be very shocked if anything looks like that.
I think probably Harmer, maybe Wharton and over Decore, probably Harmer instead of Decore. But yeah, I think we've other than some interesting picks in there, some good differentials hopefully people to be able to go at. 1:30 deadline Saturday, and this game week ends on Thursday, the 25th, with Brighton against Man City. So it's quite a long game week, this one. Scott, are we looking at in terms of captaincy? I'll bring the sheet up here in terms of expected points. Salah's obviously top, then Eze, Saka, Havertz, and Darwin. Who are you looking at as captain?
Probably Salah, or for me Salah or Havertz. I think for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I like the differential captaincy pick of someone like Eze. I think he's going to be a bit of a differential, but yeah, it's.
I think like you said though, if Havertz will be a big differential potentially as well, depending how many people bring him in. I think after my captaincy is going on Havertz this week, I'm just gonna put it on him.
If Martin Odegaard is 7.1% owned, if Odegaard is injured this week, because I've got Odegaard at the moment, one of my transfers will be Odegaard out for Havertz, and probably a Havertz captain as well. Yeah, I agree.
I'll say Odegaard's back in training, so he'll probably be available. So
probably Salah then for me.
I say mine's on Salah at the moment, and Vice is on Havertz, so quite similar to Scott. But it depends on obviously if Saka turns it on, then I might obviously change it to Saka.
I think you pulled me up on the 1% buzzer. Have I forgotten anything, or are we all good? We all good to go?
We're all good to go, mate. Unless
Fine.
you want to obviously run through obviously the team by team.
Nah. Let's call it there. So we've just done over an hour, and you've got a journey home, and so have I, and Scott's at home. But you know, it's all good. Got his tea to have, got some food to have, mate. I'm sure. Maybe some.
I'll go find my wallet, mate.
Oh God, yeah, of course you got to find your wallet, haven't you? Well, thanks ever so much for everyone for joining us this week. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms: Pod, P, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If it's a 5-star review where you get your podcast from, give us a like on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. And yeah, thank you so much for contributing and all the messages over the last week. It's been really, really greatly appreciated. Scott, hope you find your wallet. Goodbye for now.
Cheers. Thank you.
Baz, safe journey home. Goodbye for now.
See you later.
And goodbye from me. Bye for now.